items. Resident correspondence R1, which is from former Mayor Broughton, R2 from Mr. and Mrs. Lund, R3 from Mrs. Klaas, and R6 from Mrs. Seltzer. And I don't think I missed anything, CIO?
No, just my only comment at this point is that after this speaker and the next speaker, then we will be bringing forward the substantive matter, the report and the matter before council tonight, at which point everything that has been said or written will be essentially on the table for council to refer to or take into consideration in considering the matter.
All right, so we brought it all forward, so it's all part of the item. So at this point, I'm going to ask Councillor Barmere to chair this portion of the meeting. I am going to recuse myself under 2 pieces in the community charter that if a council member attending a meeting considers that he or she is not entitled to participate in the discussion of a matter or to vote on a question in respect of a matter because the member has a direct or indirect pecuniary interest in the matter. And on that point, I would say my family has a somewhat minor pecuniary interest with the family, and B, another interest in the matter that constitutes a conflict of interest. And I would consider that's my close personal friendship with the participants. Councillor Barmere, it's yours.
All right, so I'm going to do my best here to follow protocol correctly and guide this portion of the meeting. So I ask that you be patient with me if I make some procedural missteps. And I'll be looking to Peter Dejean for some support on that. But as I understand it, the general order of things is that we've got the speaker tonight presenting his perspective on the encroachment application at 61 Brunswick. Then we've got a number of correspondence to consider. And after that, I guess, and just correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, council will deliberate on the actual encroachment agreement.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Micklejohn, please go ahead.
Thank you. Do I understand in terms of the correspondence received, and we received some, I think 4 different things received today. Will you also be reading the correspondence received from me on June the 17th?
Yes, that's part of.
That's part. Okay.
It's part of the report. It's part of one of the correspondence pieces received today, as well as part of the report that is on the agenda.
Okay. Well,
council has read that, and
very good.
Council's also received all of this correspondence today, and I think has probably read it.
Well, I think I won't read the entire thing. There's several things I would like to comment on here. I think most significantly the landscape encroachment policy, which was, I'm paraphrasing here, enacted to address issues of liability of the village and certainty for residents. The big one for us is a portion of Appendix A that says there will be no encroachments, including landscaping granted on esplanades, boulevards, unopened road ends, or access to the waterfront. On that, and a hot tub is defined as a structure, which is in our letter. In CEO Dejean's brief on the request for decision, he makes a statement that I'm putting in a position that there are no encroachments at all, and that's not what I'm saying. There's lots of encroachments and lots of places they make sense. I believe what the encroachment directive says is that there will be no issuance of new encroachments, particularly structures, because that would violate the encroachment policy. There are a couple of things in Councillor de Jong's brief that I would like you to look at when you are looking at the brief on page 3. In the middle of the page, no photos, there's a number of photos in the report. Photos also illustrate the orientation of the neighboring house, which is ours, and the fact that placing the hot tub on the owner's adjacent deck will not in any way mitigate the view and perspectives. Well, actually, it puts them directly in view of us from our decks, and it is a serious encroachment onto our privacy. So to say that it makes no difference to us is not correct at all. Conversely, I'm reading again from page 3, for the owner of 61 Brunswick, one can see that the view from the pre-existing deck provides a much greater view of Howe Sound to the south, and it was pulled back 5 feet where that view is cut off by the neighbor's boathouse and the vegetation beyond. Yes, that is true. It would be nicer if his property went further out to the water. It does not. I don't know why Village of Lions Bay would consider gifting him this space to utilize for his hot tub. It at no benefit to the village.
It's a liability.
And there's a liability side too. That's all in our presentation.
That's important.
One of the points on the in the report on page 3 again, given that the pre-existing patio and planting beds, if you look at the photographs, there's a timber structure there that has been repaired. It was never a patio. There was an apple tree in that zone.
We brought pictures for everybody to look at, but of course you can't really see it.
So yeah, we're concerned about this property is listed on Craigslist for $30,000 a month. The hot tub figures big in the ad. So not only is this an annoyance for us, it'd be less of an annoyance if the hot tub was on the property. It'd be less in our face. We believe this is a considerable liability for the village to consider this. And I guess
3,000 pounds. 3,000 tons.
We did a quick bit of math on it, and it's a big hot tub.
8-person.
8-person hot tub. It would be adding about close to 3 tons of vibrating water onto a little platform that is held up by timber walls that have been repaired at the top, but the lower ones were put in the mid-80s, I would say. Don't know for sure.
Yes, it was.
Don't know the exact year, but it was in the mid-80s.
You should give the history.
So I hope you will seriously consider all the correspondence you've received from concerned citizens. I see no benefit to consideration of this hot tub encroachment on the Esplanade. I think the Esplanade is significant to the village. And at the end of the day, there is no hardship for the owner of 61 to put the hot tub on their own property. We have a good relationship with Mr. Graham. We bear him no ill will. And hey, if I was him, maybe I'd ask for it too, but there is no reason for the village to consider gifting it to him for no advantage, only liability to the village. You will be seeing the entire text of us later on. I know you have a long evening, so I won't bore you with reading through what you were going to be reviewing later, but I look forward to your thoughtful consideration on this. And we're very passionate about this to the point where I feel I need to apologize for the tone of my email on Sunday evening, which was unnecessarily harsh. It was the end of a long weekend where, as much of you are, I think we're feeling quite overrun and overwhelmed with all the visitors and all the traffic. And on top of that, this little hot tub discussion. And so I do apologize for my tone. It was inappropriate, even though our sentiment was correct. And maybe you got a laugh out of it. By the time you reach my age, you should probably know to wait until Monday morning to hit send, but we live and learn. So
I think it's important to know that Russ is a professional practicing registered architect. So we know about bylaws. I am a graduate architect. So for the last 40-odd years, we've been dealing with a lot of bylaws and what you can and can't do. And this clearly is in violation of, there's one bylaw that is specific to Lions Bay that says you are abided to have a quiet and peaceful life in this village. And people that are building structures like Mr. Graham, it's clearly a party house for profit. And there's another interesting little notion.
Well, I think it's important to think about what's important to the residents, long-term residents, and we've been here. Dorothy's been here since she was a toddler. I've been here since the 80s.
Before the train or the highway was through. That's how long it's been in my family.
And we are fully committed to being here, being part of the community. We volunteer for committees. We have lived in many houses. Our two sons along the way, anytime we've talked about moving, say, that's fine, sell that house. You cannot sell Brunswick. We will never sell Brunswick. This is our forever place. And I think the values and what's important to the people who live here is important. And, you know, our CAO and George Graham next door, neither of them live in the village, and you know, they're both in the business of renting recreational real estate, vacation rentals.
I just want to remind you that it's 2 minutes to address council. So, and if you wanted to add your name as well to speak, then you could have an additional 2 minutes. But I just wanted to remind you.
I think we've got the salient points up.
Yeah. If you wanted to put Dorothy's name down, she has been speaking, so I think that would be appropriate to put her down to speak.
So if you just wanted to close with your final remarks, that would be appropriate.
My final remarks are that I think, in our opinion, there is zero reason for the Village of Lions Bay to consider this encroachment on the Esplanade. There is, it's in clear violation of your encroachment policy. There's only negative for the village. So I hope you can listen to what our neighbors have said relative to that, all in support of us and our submission, which I think is quite clear and complete. And we look forward to your decision on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Michael John. Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but are we going to do the delegation next, and then we can touch on the correspondence?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So if you could invite George Graham up as a delegation, please.
So you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Mark Woodside, and George was unable to make it here this evening, so he's asked me to read this letter from him into the record. So I'll just go ahead and read this as quickly as I can as well.
Quick question is there any chance that we have that as an on-table item, Peter?
I don't have a copy of it, no.
Okay, all right, my apologies, go ahead, sir.
So can you hear our
it doesn't affect them,
okay.
It's just us.
Just us, we can't see?
Yeah.
Okay, you can hear us fine, Councillor Barmeyer?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so we're losing the visual from time to time. I just wanted to check. Okay.
Okay, to the Village of Lions Bay's Mayor and Council. Good evening, my name is George Graham. That's George with a J. I have a daughter who is a medical doctor and 2 young sons currently finishing university. A few years ago, I made the decision to move to Lions Bay. For this purpose, I purchased the house at 61 Brunswick Beach Road to expand and rebuild. When I made this purchase, the house next door, 59 Brunswick, was a rental and had tenants. As a semi-retired licensed developer in BC, I hold license number 42944. Many locations were available to choose from. I feel very fortunate to have selected Lions Bay. The occupancy permit for our newly built home was issued in early February 2020, and I moved in with part of my family a short while after. I've been enjoying the new home since, and given the positive feedback we received, I think many in the community like the final product. To my surprise, the house has been nominated for some national and international architectural awards. Fingers crossed. COVID-19 changed our plans temporarily, as it did for many families in our province. An opportunity arose to make up for lost income by renting 61 Brunswick Beach at a good price. I jumped on it. This is a good moment to correct some misinformation. My house at 61 Brunswick is not a short-term rental, nor will it ever be. It has been rented long-term. There is professional property management in place, and tenancies are compliant with local bylaws and the British Columbia Residential Tenancy Act. The property management company screens potential tenants and requires them to have tenant insurance as a material clause of the lease. Moreover, the property managers are specialized in long-term housing for film industry families. Contrary to American TV stereotypes, these are ideal neighbors. They are lovers of nature and respectful of other people's privacy and personal property. They are low-key and work most of the day. Filming being a very demanding industry, movie executives value quietness and privacy after a hard day of work. Lions Bay offers a beautiful and serene natural location for this. These tenants can also be stupendous ambassadors for Lions Bay once they return to their communities in Canada or California. Good publicity never hurts. In the past, other of our properties have been rented to this demographic. The experience has been very positive. As published on Friday's agenda, a proposal for an encroachment agreement with 61 Brunswick has been presented to you for consideration. My next door neighbors at 59 Brunswick have written to council objecting to part of the encroachment or its use. Specifically, they propose to restrict the use of a small area of around 160 square feet that is next to the property line. I've carefully reviewed 59 Brunswick's position and respectfully submit to council that their arguments aren't reasonable on several counts. If the 2004 bylaw interpretation by the neighbors is correct, then no encroachment agreements should have ever been granted ever for any reason after 2004. Yet encroachments have been granted in many parts of Lions Bay since that time. To be noted, the neighbors at 59 Brunswick are not invoking the 2004 bylaw to request also that my encroachment for the driveway area is denied. The question is then, why this inconsistency? If no encroachments are allowed, period, then the application of the 2004 bylaw should be for all areas and for all residents. Before I purchased 61 Brunswick, the encroachment area in question, which is called from now the terrace, was covenanted by the village and enjoyed by the previous owners. Non-permanent structures of their choice were placed there. A large and heavy picnic table and 2 benches. I'll be happy to provide pictures. So I have a couple of pictures of the previous table, etc. there. The terrace area belongs mostly to the village, but it must be noted that a portion of it is within my lot, and there is continuity and shared property line. I repaired the terrace, maintaining its original form and in consultation with the village. Afterwards, I placed some old lounging chairs and a red umbrella on it. These are non-permanent structures that I believe complied with the spirit of these type of covenant areas. My neighbors at 59 Brunswick sometimes spend the afternoon enjoying their deck at their house under construction. About 8 weeks ago, I purchased a hot tub, which is also a non-permanent structure, and placed it partially on the terrace. Hot tubs have many health and relaxation benefits. I have enjoyed it with my family since and haven't had a single complaint by any neighbors about it being noisy, including 59 Brunswick. No noise bylaw violations have been committed after 2 months of use. The hot tub is brand new and has modern technology that makes it quiet. Besides, the roaring sound of the creek close by has a much higher decibel ratio than the quiet jets. I don't anticipate noise to be an issue in the future. 59 Brunswick specifically requests that only the encroachment on the 160 square foot terrace is denied. And this because they seem to dislike looking at a hot tub partially placed on that area. But for them to even see the area in question, which is placed at the far right from their property, they need to turn more than 180 degrees to the right when looking west. I submit to you that this position isn't reasonable. The precedent could be concerning. If hot tubs is the wrong choice, then what kind of furniture or recreational items are acceptable and why? Can I place a hammock on a portable pedestal? Could I inflate and place in the terrace a low wading pool for my sister's children to play in when they visit? What if an umbrella of a certain color or shape doesn't please the neighbor's sense of aesthetics? Is a yoga mat appropriate? I submit to you today that it is best to allow homeowners themselves to decide the type of toys and furniture to use on their patios and covenant areas, as long as they comply with bylaws. Council should not be burdened with micromanaging these kinds of things. The neighbors at 59 Brunswick Beach have raised the issue of potential liability to the village in connection with the hot tub. But the same concern for liability is not raised for the use of other encroachments, present or future, on village land. This is a very selective concern. In the multiple encroachment spaces allowed by the village in Lions Bay, there will always be many potential risks and liability issues. Sure, anything can happen when people are allowed to use encroachments. Take encroachments used as driveways. Cars and trucks parked or left on driveways are very heavy. They can roll and cause tragedies. People slip and are injured on snowy driveways, homeowners, visitors, and tenants alike. Yet cars are permitted to park and people to utilize those covenant areas. Hot tubs are more dangerous than, are hot tubs more dangerous than cars or trucks on steep driveways? I don't know the statistics, but I think it highlights the very selective nature of the concern raised. I assume that there are other homes that are rented in Lions Bay. I assume some must have covenant areas that are used by the tenants for access or leisure. Do they put the village at significant risk or special risk of liability? Did the previous tenants at 59 Brunswick Beach, when it was used as a rental, put the village at grave risk because the tenants used their covenant areas for recreation? I think not. I respectfully submit to the council tonight that potential liabilities for this agreement are properly addressed by the legal encroachment agreement drafted by the village's own legal team, in which the village of Lions Bay is held harmless. They are also taken care of by appropriate insurance at the cost of the homeowners and adding specific terms in the insurance policy when needed. In my case, for 61 Brunswick Beach, I accept the village's proposed encroachment agreement without any modification, and my insurer, Lloyd's of London, will provide the required coverage for all liability, naming the village as a payee on the policy, adding specific wording as required. Tenants insurance is on top of that. Thank you for your attention and consideration. That's my letter.
Can you provide a copy of that so that
Ask George to send.
it can be part of the record?
You bet.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Woodside.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess the next thing we would like to consider are the late coming correspondence, R1, R2, R3, R6. Is it worth reading through them? I'm assuming we've all had a chance to read them, although they came in quite late.
I can confirm I've read them.
Okay. Jamie?
Yeah, I just had a chance to go through them.
Okay, so I've read them as well. And then I guess the next step in this, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, is to actually look at and consider the encroachment agreement, which is on page 159 of the package.
The report starts on page 159 of 326.
Okay.
Just one sec.
Here we go.
So I know you've read the material. I'll try not to repeat too much, given the presentations from the gentleman that you just heard. So in terms of how staff have viewed this particular situation, as I note in the report, there are lots of encroachment situations all over the village, some with encroachment agreements, many without. This council has considered a couple and passed a couple, including one at number 1 Brunswick Beach in respect of a pre-existing deck that was rebuilt, along with a carport that was on the road. And there are many others. There was one on Bayview that this council looked at. There's another one that the previous council approved for access to, on the Esplanade, a staircase in respect of 51 Brunswick Beach, as well as the carport situation there. So these are fairly commonplace. And they arise because you have private property that is separated from public foreshore property by a strip of land we know as the Esplanade or Esplanade. Most consider this to be undeveloped right-of-way, So in order to access, it's land that's owned by the village, and there are many places where people have to cross this in order to access public amenities like the ocean. Where there are structures involved, the village attempts to limit its liability by ensuring that the use or the structure is hopefully minor in nature, and we tend to decline, or I shouldn't say decline because it's up to council to decline, but what we do with respect to new requests is discourage. And I can say that in respect of one of the pieces of correspondence you received today, also involving a hot tub on the Esplanade. It was noticed just in passing by the building inspector and I when we were out for a walk in that area. And the hole was just being dug. So it hadn't really gotten very far, but it was clear that something was going on. So investigated further, and that owner was discouraged from applying for a new encroachment. It wasn't pre-existing. She could have applied, and council would have had to consider that application. It's not for staff to decide, only for staff to explain what the options are and what the parameters are and the policies. So we do have a policy. It's not a bylaw, it's a policy. And it's long in the tooth. It's due for re-examination, which was on the work plan, but that got sort of shoved aside because of the pandemic. It was to be part of the Boulevard bylaw consultation with a village-wide consultation on that particular subject. So it will come forward at some point, but in the meantime, as I say, we do have lots of encroachments and lots of encroachment agreements. In respect of, I just want to quickly run through the fact that this particular application pertains to 3 separate areas. There's the driveway area, which on Brunswick Beach Road, it's deceiving because the actual built road that you drive on is on CN right of way, and the municipality's road right of way looks like everybody's front yard. So everybody's driveway crosses in that area to the north section after you cross the tracks. And we have a water main under there. So it does require us to ensure that obviously people need to access their properties, and we need to ensure that we can tax our infrastructure. So that's that part of the I'll call that A. Area B, the more side the order for last year, in accordance with all the process treatment, and that was moved. In terms of the project was moved from it was you have a road in there that curves around, right away curves around towards the ocean on the north side. That was 6 months. And address any fees and mention over and remind and change. So as part of the instruction on property, the race orders for the and for I brought that full process and so it is on those levels, that's not that much. And this would have been 15,000 from the trees are standing there. So in order in terms of a map on north house and sort of the area of north side of the ocean. And then on the area C is the west side house, so catch part, the deck, and existing sort of terrace landscaping that was done landscaping. But you see that in the surveys, that attaches to to see the zoom in on the other. So what's actually the stuff was in and the inspector that the and was more there and that was our area and so it's like files so that was just because we're making this and it was last summer and that because they're right.
Yeah.
So in this you're behaving like a probably would not necessarily because people are there, but there's it's a little bit more of a use that policy weeks requires an agreement. So he mentioned that about the 60% of our agreement in February. He did fine with it, and actually got all the way back and so he got decided not to stop the he said extra lines that the excavation bill. I said if I could do this he did the order, he was at he was that this would go up and he's on the Skyward Terrace. The council is not actually but in terms of the basis on which council has the basis for coding the next place and then with the wires, but it's not something that considers to be a structure of a nature that is built upon land. So that's kind of the way that we distinguish that this is much more or somewhat nine use than the deck the council recommended for at number 9, which is a structure. Yeah, it's like there. It was in that shape. It was in the application. So I think that the whole value being out is not necessarily something that is redeemed. If it was short-term rental, but that all of these process we have rentals, then that might be a story. But long-term rentals are legal in Wednesday and to another BC. And so I think that's probably not necessarily in interest of these points. We have to consider about this is for anywhere else or if the on the owners same back there people see and then neighbors are going to complain about excessive properties on ways. So the last one before meaning pre-existing and not a fixed structure. So I was thinking right, yeah, so it's something important. There's another best one and so that's not the privacy and actually something much more just to comment on. So apart from that, yeah, the comes off the liability which this is our standard agreement to produce our reports and the requirement as well is that the terms of this report is 1900 and registered on the body. So that's something that so
the question that came you address this ask again some of the following address three issues proceeding with village construction settings from the bylaw and third kind of concerns.
So liability is addressed in the agreement. There's also, as noted by the letter, the planning commission and specialist reference to and he says the district is money part of our agreement. So they have that in running and for the most part, I think that bylaw is oriented toward in state repair or repairs such that they detract properties in the and it's not divorced by some I don't see that it has a here, but as well. And I think that anything to do with the way around the bylaw that doesn't pertain to parents rather to uses for with something that would be more for the bill and placing that bill. I stand corrected, so I would agree myself on the bylaw, but the same study really is highly related. So the bylaw definitely requires high time from the west. There's other questions and evidence on the bylaw, but maybe on the basis of the daytime noise. And that could be a different bylaw.
That's the question.
You stated that includes the driving equipment and technology
that was didn't realize that point because you did say that you didn't want to put on that test. So didn't really take it into all consideration. It's not necessarily always fitting with the property owner. So people have a certain house renovation, which is landscaping, and we haven't noticed that something needs attention, so we're telling you to remove our down here. The reason we have the light that there was driveways there, there's no lighting here. So we would require no matter what. We have to driveway just to be able to and because of that, and because of the additional request from the website, just out of use, how many websites there are being just people obviously for CV work. No, in terms of the applications, we don't require input from your source to things like it's always the case that there will be a component irrespective of the area of the website that they're dropping in your conversation. One of the things that we tend to do review with us this year.
We get some clarity on language. Peter, you said not always require neighbors input, or that's procedure not necessary.
There is a process because it has been done on ad hoc basis in the past. So that's one of the reasons why it needs to be reviewed and what's reviewed for all this.
Any questions?
So that pre-existed owner, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, I think you're on the next step here would be to consider is that right? Yeah. So just did for the 20th day of February 2020 for the licensee George Curley Graham. Staff instructed the council to prepare section of the agreement into register land title documents. The mayor and chief financial officer authorized to execute agreements and comments.
think it should be as far back from where is reasonable. It's not as property. She shouldn't be another possibly doing something that we justify why it should be this is fair use or QHA or something else. So I do think there's so much use different. And like something else like basically something like these things as one yourself. But for business explanation of using so forth. I think there's a lot of correspondence from members, but people I realize I wouldn't say that really if you're because you're such a something you review like I think the Susie and taking elder something like an idea use and other group I think it should so
anything to add?
I start with the that pre-existed the homeowner and by nature is not permanent. While we metal is significantly different than average times removed. But the way the bylaw sits, it's a hard argument. We don't have a specific bylaw to approve. So it's we're going to review this and we table this on this and we can review it and unfortunately it's like what's going to
So the bylaw you referring to?
That we said we're going to review the encroachment agreements and I think it's very different than yes or not. It seems they're all encompassed in one encroachment agreement. They're not specifically distinct. Am I understanding?
Well, you're looking at the I see the different line. I think there's three different types of evidence. So I think it's the process and some of the criteria that the user will consider or this but I don't think that is looking about operating it's a technical that is difficult to in certain senses and it's been suggested previously that not time to embark upon consideration of contentious types of matters if it needs to be avoided obviously it's going to be sensitive I can't see that I think we're longer time I believe the board biology and being told about various stages of use but the whole consultation process and like so and we think that's an option but it's not always it is policy not always make that clear the decision about the law is
liability if some were to enter on that existing structure, if it becomes our responsibility as maintain agreements. How does that play out?
That's really important. The maintenance and repair and to be in good stead is the responsibility of
I think the question is if that negotiation works granted, not piece of infrastructure, whatever it is, it's actually well, we see pictures. I mean, that's nice.
The agreement includes the limit of liability. The agreement would have to be amended such that it has to use other than if the council decision was that no, we can't put out an area, then no, that's the question in my use range. There are other areas of similar nature. There are above garden landscape areas, etc. Does that mean that island areas can be used? So we have or really cost has to meet those structures or the hard residents of landscape beds and islands and so forth. These layers of flowers. These are elevated. Was already there. The difference has been the change is that houses placed on top of them and a rating has been behind that there. So whether or not it was to be used for table chairs, as areas that landing, so need to provide a kind of like the use of those areas as per the agreement would presumably stipulate that what use can be made and what is not used.
Right. I think I'm asking my question. So, for argument's sake, now that build structure belongs to the village, they'll just maintain it and remove it. How does that play out? That's what I'm asking.
Well, it depends. That's part of the agreement, and the property owner has an obligation to maintain or keep up. And
probably not one that takes more danger on that structure. It's not the responsibility of that particular
resident. Then liability if it will use the village. So
whether it's the owner or the village, we can ignore that. That's a decision.
I mean, if you were required to use the place on deck, what on deck is built to hold on that and the environment, I should what's the agent, some and that.
That's a question that we can use that we could put some like use on that deck and truth. How much can you get? Is that typical in the
This is license to occupy. That's what you're license to occupy. So the license you can stipulate whatever that relates to gives our use on that use on but the case of more license use of land for particular purpose. You license for somebody to use land in a way that was contrary to your bylaws or
if the landowner who's on this attention believes that like encroachment if he decides to land into the city can you decide this is that possible?
It's important like says that you can have use this it's relating to the uncovered exert for property where it's like conditions of use for a particular area that could otherwise be being requirements of the bylaw. So conservation that you can give landlords you can be simply conditions of license to use land. You got a motion on the floor. It's been seconded in accordance with the report. So you can discuss the following to ensure that everyone is speaking or and any of you will suggest amendment to motion that would be one option that's at your disposal. You could follow it and vote on it. Yes, you can. You would have that I would suggest that if you want to amend motion on the floor, if you're feeling that's not what call
I think already overcoming motion that says now that we get to grant the encroachment tax place. We can move on to there as well. So the most of the rules that we need to so I would be open to amending the motion. Something we describe the use of the encroachments on moving it to non-permanent structures that are, I don't know what weight capacity would be, but easily removed. So in machinery, I have no idea how that would be. No, I think that would be exclude just to not represent for other scenarios. So we already have an agreement for use of that knowledge, but that's all over for example. But that's necessary at this time, never the case, because it's going to get because it's tools of that.
So anyways, head number 1 under heading.
I think we have to that if you like to motion to amend the residence such that subject to amendment of the agreement to include this product in the list area of Northwest failure. Yeah, that makes sense. And you'd like to put forward, Councilor Rose?
Yes, I'll be good here.
Okay. I think it's a reasonable comment. Use of So
the IC is, yeah.
So maybe we just follow on the minute.
I'll question, which point is the amendment. So you vote on the amendment.
So I'll call vote on the amended motion.
So it's the number one.
Okay. Councillor draft appropriate date for reference, the 20th day of February 2020 for licensee George Ellie Green has to be pending as precluding use of Lava on Northwest Corner for precedent. Okay, so we're done. You must approve draft appropriate date for reference, the 20th day of February 2020 for early Graham, subject to amending it.
On the visionary, unless they're all around.
Okay, license.
Any more question? So it's the all three together as amended, we were allowed, but it's the three original resolutions that were in the report as amended. I voted now, so we'll think as amended. One question?
Does anyone have any comments or questions on that? Okay, so call the question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
There's two of them. I don't know which one's it.
Right, it's fine, I'll just keep that in mind. It seems to not. It's just one, so let's see. Yeah.
There's one plug in and one plug in.
Oh, okay. I'll just watch it.
I think so. It's still away from this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barmier, for doing this on my behalf. Okay, we're at number 5, which is the approval of minutes of prior meetings. For the council members, as you can see, we're running at the bottom of the first page of the second agenda. So for the rest of the now, I will take a shuffle with that. I'll before motion to accept the minutes as written. I get a second, we'll go for any changes minutes. Councillor Barmier, thank you for replying to changes.
Sorry, I've actually minutes. This page 15. Date A1. And I'll read the last sentence. She is referred to the CEO. Then the decision of the village will contribute to the this is not correct council. If the economy factors, as the decision was already made. So I think that sounds a little confusing. I went to listen, and what the CEO actually said was, we wouldn't proceed if we didn't get the provincial portion of the grants. We want to say, please, we wouldn't receive that provincial portion of the grants, as the council had only approved 25,000 grants. That's pretty much what the CEO said, that way.
She's reading.
I mean, cancel that.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
I've got one of the notes here, pages, page 20. Reading from the system,
Thank you. Going on, call acceptance of minutes. I'll do ayes, vote.
Aye.
The council will be June 3rd. Now, before motion, that's what I'm to be approved as stated. The first and second. Councillor discussion. Any changes minutes? Please speak.
Page 22, first to be usually held the first Tuesday.
Great, thank you very much. We're not using so I'll all the second to agree that
I got 3 volunteers, but yeah, it's still around the past years and I have not completely fully developed the program for investors. We have one person, somebody at this time, again, that's in terms of their volunteer time.
Do you take the this is
the ability to step forward in terms of parks. One was strictly trails, so I think I was that could be expanded upon, but if not, then it's something about to regular amounts of parks. Yeah, we are working on the process of after the executive report.
Considering orders resident people want to reach out to issue and one agencies and ways additional actions 2 or 3 residents was spread out and that's why it's the process no more contact is we got the contract so you just not copy the information always so traces to stay there for a while. Any questions? Thank you. Thank you. And 137, I think that's more, and also for that. I don't think it's 139, so I will test this one. The one to I read that, one to the one to go to one to Susan, maybe like so there we are. These reports, so separately, and this is a here, and we all need so I think
basically it's create just community chart request council report. We don't need to take all the last week. So to purpose is we have some feedback from yesterday in the council wants to get the report and then send them so the request is any comments now and accept it. So I
page 35, you are the chair of the committee. Councillor Fine is the chair of the committee. The chair of the page you are. I don't know what is the chair of the
Maybe he is the chair of the business. I go back at the emergency program, included the emergency. Yeah, we thought that was insane. That's what we find like that.
Yes, we So the volunteer groups, so the volunteer council committees, so it's not really this committee, that was
okay. Yeah, you have to be in this program, or like
it's not a question of information. I'm actually to the final question. So the text we found was a system value, which claimed that to the text the household lessons will then because the things of what we will versus maybe 2,000. The text is the same way you get to it doesn't become much. Is to the house text we pay according to the thing or carry around this. I think it's a section of the cost of text cost you the housing allowance versus the for example.
It's usually how I agree target. What's it going to have so
Yeah, it's more really more relative to the
which is the point. Yeah, so but I found that point when I was how to compare. So the value points in like difficult also people who work. So this is net. But that's like working on this to be the price weight is how fast it's range. It's also possible to calculate it could say I'm working on the capacity. It's already followed. Then you're going to find out what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, I don't know works really in this how to show it. And it ain't correct, but it's what is an average that's how people argue houses by yourself. Forward vehicles, those are the vehicles. Yes, yes, it was the purchase of 2019 purchase of works vehicles.
And then those are paid for, right?
It's paid for, and we set it up, and it's over increase the lease, so the purchase of truck.
So $98,000 now is equivalent to 3 payments.
Yes, so that's basically just on the fleet and because that would be
last thing, that payments to supplies for contributions to 25,000.
that's we put it on the next trying to get there's two sides, we see yeah, we didn't know.
Okay. I'm saying that, okay, so managing all payments.
So we're here, it's very restructured municipalities, and so some of these are simply part of it. That's the color body. And more than one take growth for. Actually, so there's very good message. Yeah, this one is where you use which is
okay, cool. And so I'll get devices both. And in some cases, the preliminary review. And if we get more necessary, we've got the preliminary review for information purposes. We'll let you get into it.
And specification of program halfway through the year against the total budget. So I'm just trying to balance settles with analysis and at the end. So would you guys see capital?
Thank you. I have questions on CapEx, but I'll defer to anybody else that has stuff on the PL first. Do you have any questions, anybody? Yes, go on,
so I'm 804. Just talk to the grants. What's still too far from grants? Like 376, budget for the years 859.
So you can see that clear on P106 is a breakdown of the grants. So the bulk that's you see small community grant, the water was one of the grants. You can find the use marketing. And then the other grants, so P107.
Okay, I'll follow that with the numbers.
Yeah, these numbers are then the other grants really just awards. We haven't had a chance. We basically have big purchases, and then by the end of the year we'll be the grant. The biggest one is the clean water. That's just left over in the water tank. We are using this year for the PRDs.
Okay. Can I shoot down from okay, yeah, I know there's some grants, but you just answered it. Don't even understand. So this is about estimated phase 3.
Yes.
So we have to build. What is that grant?
That's FCM grant. It's just come out. It has only takes us only about a year and a half. It will be a good position. We can 5% by the end of the year. But we're looking towards phase 2. And because we need this more direction, we over phase 3. So we'll be able to sure we'll probably be involved at the same time as phase 2 and it's not right. It's the FCM and the UPN. So we're able to hopefully maybe apply some different equations on different things.
Okay. Well, but also like capital expense summary. So just yes, we'll do that. Yeah.
You can go into that sector. Your questions were maybe
thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for the details. Purpose.
Yes, take a minute to celebrate the grants that you were awarded.
You say as long as you're resident, we apply for it, so we were unfortunate to get the ESS. The package we got is related to COVID, so that application will go into all that. The military one, that's what there was.
Thank you, Councilor Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Teachers to take award. Thank you, Mr. But it seems to me that for the past 30 years, kind of very digital time for staff. It's an understatement. It's kind of works because it's so brought down the line. You're going to see things happening in the period.
Basically, the work session will have to RTC.
Okay, so this is all happening.
We had a few projects that went through the detail. The CAO has other work studies, things that potentially make one that are hopefully these projects have deadlines, so I'm super proud of those.
I would admit the numbers of the play parties today. We have to tweet all this up. And I agree very much. I have other questions. Yeah, so please, thank you for that.
I just want to tell you basically, yeah, I was going to suggest we to another time in which tip sheet is the clear prioritization file, or is it usually sketching in the special question?
You can get that experience to it. And there's like 10 years ago, so that would be a good time to give an update.
Yeah, just as really on, we see but that's the next later.
Anybody else? People call it all there. And CAO, people are on board. I and actually, I forget whether it's so we created and had a website and quickly it got circulated widely and made up with 123 responses. And that's referred to in this report as the VV survey. And we had also a version that was direct mail to Brunswick residents after the other one. And the version was VV residents only. I'm going through the first one. About 39% of the respondents using that figure, go and look at some of the answers to the question and draw some conclusions that may not be accurate, but I think reasonable. Everybody seems to say that the speed limit reduction is about right. In terms of the voting focus in the area, approximately 56% of residents respond negatively to this question in that survey. 95% of residents respond negatively to the idea of creating additional parking on the road, moving from underpass to railway tracks. And the question box, between access station, between access to 59, so 50-50 in terms of the residents' responses to that question. And balance of those percentages includes in balance of the report and comments. Those who disagree strongly about something that they want to make. In the subsequent survey that was direct mail to Brunswick residents, we had 17 responses, and of that, we had 59% responded strongly agree with the Brunswick features. So that means, of course, that number down a bit if these are all new residents. And again, the strongest agreement on creating additional parking on the street leading to the crossing. Residents were asked additional questions about approved traffic receptacles and port facility. They go half and half on that approved receptacle, 7% screen with people's office trucks that have tested with waste services. And 71% residents strongly disagree or disagree with port facility in that area. In terms of dog access, 50% disagree with alignment. Strongly disagree. 18% agree, 18% neutral. Metro Council is going to issue things about this summer in the city. Although I would venture guess that those who don't want to have very strong opinions and confidence in some of the concerns. And to clarify the intent with putting that out there was the people announced this summer. Those funds on each access again. So I think the council needs to do anything with this one tonight because there'll be the question will be by the time again. And this is a follow up the ministry presentation last week about the Garden area. They gave feedback that they had received directly from public, as well as they actually waited a couple weeks to report the responses from residents and residents there. And so they passed on all those comments and don't spend. They actually do that and so I thought it was very sweet about the area. So they're going to do that. We did that by Friday afternoon, and they will indicate that the monitor by those the residents are released. The survey itself is attached and the results and opportunity for any questions and to see if council wants to do anything on the dog question. I guess I would also like a consultation in terms of managing on the beach and where to dispose of your waste and it can include and we did order a couple of new bear-proof things that haven't arrived yet but are expected to shortly. In the interim, we moved the one from Killing Road, we brought it up to the Sunset parking lot to one that wasn't bear-proof. So there's those things that the council consider is whether or not we should put bear-proof in at from the beach. And I think that the idea of the parking lot and the investment and the bill CAO and just values of the process. So the request is that information purposes of the present parking to be provided. So all the received over time points and information about the check the I think the what do you think about suffice that it's just the way it works. As the I believe I think I said brothers of the British so just like states are and we talk to one I don't know council knows what it is bring that towards coming back to the community to resident recognition so you can very much or do one distribution so I need my region that's much good fun.
Yes, yeah, it's report it. When I look at these results, how do you know what % here? Because we're obviously we were just take question 7. And the question leaves actually permitted access. That seems like fairly strong. I mean, I think this one here. I believe I know all that. It's on the line for when we continue to make second. After the direction I suppose. I took the contact to ensure it's correct. Yes. So if we assume that this response to be residents opposed to unlike residents or non-residents who read outside the responses, then we divide 19 to 30% number of responses that have been residents. So 18 by 3 minus 49%. That's about 49%. Yeah, it's very this is obviously. And I think that so that 50% of the residents will all be residents opposed to us. I think it's a assumption. It's not yeah. I think that's some of what we get especially with the administration. It is to the work before we move this. Like we do the assumptions
first I wanted to change that in 1960, moving the road, that's not to policy anyway, not to all details, like, clarify for, it was on that, so, yeah, that's great.
Okay, and I believe the two is up. Thank you very much. That's true. Council Works, the first represent, and this is first of already December, multiple uses funding future. Just put it to family, call number to see if I'm correct, if I'm not counting my information, for building from the department. That's the communities, it's alternative sound, very attention. Teacher assistant, others are, which also talks to the member, wires, or town science, and these areas are passes, which you and development that's been approved, or passes, see it, but this one actually pretty much work, teacher.
So what I address is the process. So I would see this unfolding would be in August, we would be doing the more pieces on the process of custody, and the concept for duplex, triplex, and the rationale, the options are, and request feedback. Communication will be through website, let me know. It's a second and also feedback for consultation. Your will proceed and prepare a zoning application by all meeting. So nothing will happen until time as council determines taking public after consultation or more, what that feedback looks like from the community as a whole. And then you determine whether or not you want staff to on this end. So that was like would be in our 2020 meeting, staff bring back a zoning application bylaw, and council consider the council consider 3 readings. Bylaw should then be sent to the application for approval, and then after come back from then we would send down a public hearing for the zoning application. That would be sometime in November. Not sure if it was approved really quickly. Then we might have the public hearing to the November 17th council meeting, where council could consider adoption of zoning, or if that was that meeting, then December 15th, meeting council could consider adoption of zoning. Council, questions? Hands up for please. Thank you for your hands up.
And if we're going through the process, it's probably not the first time I've talked about this over the years, and talking about it doesn't work, so I think something should move forward.
I think I have a many thoughts that about resilient technology. I'm looking over those, but I do believe there's a good question she has interest. I mean, we're talking about a precedent, and doing that. Particularly the same point you want to say about that considering the question, I think the question is yes, we need to do engagement process, and how we get the code restrictions, it does be creative and can now. I've made these statements before, and see how it's on the ED mandate, which were relevant and mandate is in our OCP, or specifically it's in our visual content statement. That visual content statement was 2015 in this paper, I'll read from the page we can use on the page, this is not specific, this is not my own background, visual content statement. And the other is by the university, basically, when I say through, read the content statement itself, it's also a statement that says, this is just 2016 statements, which award statements, which says, the just years captain on 48 issues designed by the design of we have gone out, we test the question, got the inputs, and test me more verbal than more much from I am gracious this position, I hope to be prodigious, but I think the conversation was my basis.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
I think this conversation needs to be emphasized happened there over the last 10 years, and all of us lots of things. Many of you about 2 hours, 4 buildings. Then the same thing, education is part of how to continue to live in Vancouver and our children live here as well. So it's not an interesting special crazy meeting.
I think we'll see where we are. Everybody will comment for all motion. That's good. Thank you. All right, and I'm support that motion. All those in favor, ayes 4, these votes please. Councillor 4, Councillor Cliff.
Aye.
Councillor. Are you ready? I'm happy to say that overweight remains high at 540 people as lower days, and it's increasing down. So 68% overweight for my update. I see my messages of around 200 on YouTube, and I think the pictures on special paper. And I think also that everything else I sent today was important that the reporters are looking for a story, and we are one of those that can call in the Travel First Justice Miami, picture cars, and all this kind of stuff. I think that's reports that they're all committee. I'm going to management from cars and transit, and I explain why I'll try to think of the other. So last piece for me, and which I think is
I fully add that I was accepted into the leadership course through the general part of was here is whether clear or not. Yes, and thank you also very much for getting those recommendations. Thank you, Nancy, to pass on to those. So after me, thank you. Okay. You did thank you. To share the knowledge that I will be so.
Those can you so basically put the information into resolution form, but anything over the application, it didn't see that the suggestion of books for this consideration all in done. But doesn't see the answer in the course of time upon the advice of the Margaret that she the work to be done. Just thought it was an exploratory option going forward so that not come back on the same issue if that was the case. Either I just thought it was an additional option that you want to see. Thank you very much. The session that we're looking at. So you said numbers and that was it. Yeah, it's 200 trees to understand and so on to grow. That was would be a good real practice. So take that suggestion and I just like to that and considering the applicant. So but I put out there and council can decide not to provide an additional option to the applicant or not.
I guess I'm wondering, are we doing it without the additional to this?
That's the report. Both sides of the tax sale. Today, last in the December. All properties that have living taxes at times. As you go, the industry has had afterwards. In order that M159 allows municipalities to defer the tax sale, not tax sale in 2020 or 2021, which time properties that had living taxes this year still have the same living taxes next year as they pay them. In any years, they will also to live it. As for what it is, if this file passes, I have to contact living taxes just to let them know that the tax sale is being deferred. So currently, we have one living taxes. We have 3 men on our report, but 2 pay living taxes. So we're at this time has living taxes.
Okay, council, any questions?
I just have one question. Is this like something that is a regular occurrence? I know this annual tax sale happens, but do we regularly have this? It's taxes that involve in August, especially quite requirement from community charge to make sure that we're able to contact everyone. I've actually handed over letters to residents just to make sure that they understand because there's no benefit in this tax sale, and we have written as well. So we have people there's certain timelines that has to be advertised in the newspaper. You might see different advertisements, but fortunately most years we're able to get people paid their taxes before it's time to happen. And we have until 10 a.m. when they have tax sale to pay their taxes, and then they were then the tax sale will be cancelled. So we're usually able to get full payment of the taxes usually by the end of August. This happening just I'm curious, like when year of taxes haven't been paid during the
2 years. So it has to be done next year for years, and then after that you can get the tax sale on which years is one redemption period where the homeowner does the tax sale. It's still easy to pay, but still have to pay taxes, and that's not answer.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay, I'll call the minutes for first reading. All those in favor, ayes.
Right.
Thank you. One more. That's enough.
Oh, I got it.
Thank you. All right, pass. We'll go to second reading. That's all. Discussion. Hearing none, call the roll. All the ayes, please vote.
Aye.
That was over first reading. As we just did, vote for that motion. And for second approval. Thank you. Second, any discussion? Questions? No. Now, all those in favor, ayes, 4, nays, opposed. Aye. Thank you very much. And the last one is for adoption. Same for that motion. And second approval. Please. Thank you. Thank you. Last one. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Call the vote. All in favor, ayes, 4, nays, opposed, please.
Aye.
File 584, T file 2016, and file 584, and that the file 4716 and file 584, is read 8 times. And I put forward a quick that second. And roll. Very much your discussion. Any questions? See if anything to add this. All right, so discusses the housing institute regarding supporting around land applications to really bring in file 41, which is the application file, and then the substantive work for us to rewrite the application, which applies to building permits, applies to demolition permits, and applies to situations where the project is a city wall or machinery or materials will be utilizing the highways and the so that last part wasn't really all clear, and the clarity also was lacking for the next one. So that's why I was the permit we called that the 2000 wasn't really clear when it was supposed to be previously, and that just gets rolled over into the damage deposit for the building permit when I think so up to 100,000 cubic, that would be a 3,000 damage deposit anyways, and then if it's greater than that, then that's going up to the 2000. In terms of the assessing fee, and those situations, for example, we've got social deposit removal, permit application, moving blocks and boulders and dirt stuff across our sewer line or something on the road, or official use of that our chief way. So we'll not be there, but it is as clear as possible in terms of how damage deposit for our process. And then that would be it.
Let's see, like, well, just trying to see the use of process for subdivision applications from the use and then from the subdivision application. We might create readings, you know, the process. I think it sounds like the same shit. Well, you have to capture all the applications in the so we can get the process now. So when they clear about this, what's it called at the stage, we have a users available, basically that stuff and things. And then you have the most technical review that's set out in file 41. And so this brings flexibility of file 41 is it goes with it wasn't study about subdivisions, and that's why that was the opportunity to clean up and because there's like published are and to which you apply. So we have one the zoning aspect was always there. There was some amendments to bylaw around 16.17, which set out all the preliminary review and application, and so that's all applications. So there's in terms of subdivision itself, you don't get to do subdivision aspect of the preliminary review aspect. So subdivision application is your take for the substantive review at that point and balance before the final approval application. How they modify that. Okay, thank you. Any questions? The next one, what is the yes, we were set up but not so might be moving or placing. Maybe might not do it, but set up the roads or other factors. The stuff to the wording that was reached out, to determine any kind of amount for that deposit. So we wanted to say it was clear as well previously, it doesn't say anything as to how much deposit are and different. So we got wondering what was ahead on the permit that we get people house. That might not be ready yet. So maybe you've seen this before, the permit has been accepted and so we really need to set up that as well. So that's why we're going to wait it is as the intersections and then there's a wrap up on the bottom. So it's just a format and something about the difference and other data that are ways of extraction. Yeah, it's part of this. Okay, yes. All those in favor for reading? Aye. Aye. Okay, so that takes us to question 10, like every day. So I will
So the first item is general correspondence. This is from non-resident, Mr. Blake. Responded to that, so that's done. Mr. Howe, the CAO responded to that. The members of our project, I'll stop here for a second. This is something that Councillor Barmier had suggested, that we're getting a lot of emails and interest from non-residents complaining about showing about parking, about beaches, about our entitled neighborhoods, and I'm quite comfortable in not responding to the non-residents because I think once I've identified the section, these council already call for wrong and based on mediation. Help, I just want to so I like council specifically when it was non-resident and it's basic. I'm just not responding when we want to respond. I'll just go around the table on this one. Councillor Barmier, you put it forward. I presume your view has not changed.
I agree.
Councillor Cunliffe, your view?
I completely agree.
Thank you, Councillor, your view?
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Mr. Martin, felt this category and we did respond to. Premier Horgan, I would respond to him, although the request was also to BCM. So from that, I researchers and BCM do BCM, which will be held electronically in September. I think that's a new response as well. The wood fiber LNG extension request and responses, that's for us to have, which we do, so there's no response to that. One was Mr. Santos regarding parking, I answered that. And the next one is Mr. Nelson, who's in one resident regarding parking restrictions and Mr. Silverman. First two, our response first was R1 from Mr. Har, and I was responded self-correcting almost the next day. Next one is item R2, which is parking on Mount Drive, that's answered. One is R3, and that's Mr. Dennis, that's still parking, that's answered. Mr. Brown, my second follow-up, I know that's been answered as well. Mr. Giovanni, regarding parking tickets for parking near Firefly, his name's in the hands of the street officer, but next one is the Lindy request, and this one is about so probably that follow-up, we'll go to first one after. Next one is R7, which is finishing off the parking, that's answered. And I guess showing my stuff, I said I've written a lot of letters, so I think sure there are a few letters that you read. So it's the first one is resolution, that's parking, and then that's the council response. Next one. Next one. And that's what I'm doing. Okay, can't remember. So I say that one for digital and digital just very simple. So that we know what it is. Next one is a relaxation of application by that forward for the next one would be a decision regarding parking and the same period council one council parking to this and council come up to respond to her. That would be appreciated.
Again, sorry, which page?
Oh,
yes, of course.
Would you need to contact the legislative officials to advise on council's position?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the councillors for residents. Carlos, you can be here to do correspondence. And first one is and this is regarding our application. And we've done it. I'm going to do
especially this for the parking agreement is not going to proceed. Reason to was described since the theme about applications. I don't know if we actually have any charger yet, since they don't preclude us from applying next year. Yeah, it was very quick. I've never had. They submitted. But they just submitted last week, and it turned out that 1 2 months, so also pretty quick. So we should know that was successful.
Thank you very much. So there's no response on that, so we're done on that. And on the basic points, we're on to R6 inclusive, R1, R2, R3, and R6 will push forward on the system of discussion. I'm going to go back to R4 to CAO in a second. Yes, thank you. Versus R5, so I will look for most of the answers
to whom are we responding? That's high?
I think we already heard comments on 35 KDA.
And which? I'll respond to see a page number here.
Carla, you send this to consent agent.
Thank you.
It came out on Sunday, so okay.
Okay, but I don't have it in my
Thank you very much. And just remind you that you are asking there as a site too. You know without your ground foundation. Like share of course except for this is regarding voice violence request and this is one time so and hands over to CAO like you can perfect included. Resolution. I did see it here. Also, we're looking for a charge request. No, deal for that too. And first, I didn't have to do that. Yeah, I can address it like that. That's the problem. Okay, so CAO, again, this is came in late. This is joint council came 5.9. So we're telling us pretty fresh. Okay, CAO, we have all. Yeah, that was forward because obviously the timelines next council meeting will be moved. So Ms. Leger is planning to host a couple of parties at her house on March 15th and 22nd. She sets out the procedures in effect of meeting the protocols and project strategy to take. She's requesting that noise bylaw be technical noise bylaw on dates in question between 7 and 9 p.m. When she does have that music, which is jazz and Oopsie Blues, and she's expecting the application will be minimal. That sound as Gary recognizes. So the state request was for section 6M, the noise bylaw, for section for the time periods of 15 and 2 and just asking for executive parking ordinance for time because there can be from 10 hours to be more than maybe the parking rules that we are just and if you don't do that way then that seems we'll see a resolution to amend it to say the council language bylaw for section 6M and to allow use of 9 people or after you drive plus 18
Thank you.